Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from the Frontier. Thank you for stopping by. I'm always grateful. Let me start with some home thoughts. Yesterday I was recounting from the Wasteland, T.S. Eliot's Wasteland. April is the cruelest month, breeding lilacs out of the dead land, mixing memory and desire, stirring dull roots with spring rain. And then subsequently I read a book by Ngugi where Thiongo dreams in a time of war. Years later, he's talking, he was writing, when I read T.S. Eliot's line that April was the cruelest month, I would recall what happened to me one April day in 1954, in Chile, Limuru, the prime estate of what, in 1902, another Eliot, Sir Charles Eliot, then governor of colonial Kenya, had set aside as White Highlands. The day came back to me, the now of it, vividly. April is the cruelest month, breeding lilacs out of the dead land, mixing memory and desire, stirring dull roots with spring rain. Came across a very interesting piece about Pluto's haze layer, backlit by the sun. Have a look at the photograph. This was in the New Yorker. NASA's New Horizons spacecraft concluded its tightly choreographed flyby of Pluto back in July, with a pirouette pointing its antenna toward Earth. 5 years later, the anxious team at Mission Control in Maryland received the first handful of images. Pluto, still smarting from its demotion to dwarf planet, nonetheless revealed itself to be a complex world with a polar ice cap, rugged mountains, smooth plains, reddish patches that recalled the surface of Mars. And then, just as the New Horizons scientists began their feverish speculation, might the smoothness be the result of ongoing geological processes? Could the reddish patches be the organic material nicknamed star tar, a precursor to life? The spacecraft fell silent again. For the next 3 weeks, New Horizons carried out a series of planned observations, looking back at Pluto and its moons, pausing only occasionally to send home low bandwidth information about the solar wind and space dust that it was encountering. 95% of the information that it had gathered during the flyby, including most of the high-resolution imagery, remained tantalizingly out of reach, trapped aboard the spacecraft's digital recorders. What a thought. Well, macro thoughts, let's go there. The meltdown is coming, I wrote on the 10th of August 2015. Certainly feels like it today. George Soros is talking of global markets at the beginning of a crisis. He's saying it reminds him of 2008. I think it reminds me of 1994. And you will go back to September 2014 when I said there's a small window for sharks as the dollar rises. And I said then the dollar has liftoff against the yen. And it reached 109.46 on September 19th. I'm bullish the yen now. The highest level since August 2008. Commodity currencies have been getting creamed. The rand has sliced through 11. It just sliced through 16. Real has retreated 7.4% over the last 4 weeks. Gold was last trading at 12.14 and could seriously crash and burn. And I think that was a pretty good call. But I saved myself. Let's move on to political reflections. Agence France Presse tweeted a news graphic, North Korea's nuclear explosions compared. And it's very funny, isn't it, how everybody's saying, was it really a hydrogen bomb, was it not? And I could imagine the president of North Korea sitting in his office and getting more and more upset with folks not believing what he obviously believes he'd set off. And I think the bottom line is this comment I found on Bloomberg. Either way, it means Pyongyang has advanced its nuclear game. That's clear. North Korea has been working on the militarization of its nuclear warheads for many years. The test marked their latest step. 2010, I addressed some of these issues. I said, far away in distant lands lies the Hermit Kingdom. This land is ruled by the House of Kim, and its capital is Pyongyang. And I was saying how they had tiny little hands like the elves and the shoemaker. According to latest reports, Tashteen Malik, she's on the left, Saeed Farouk is on the right, pictured passing through Chicago's O'Hare International Airport in July 2014. But apparently the timeline contains an 18-minute gap beginning at 12:59, during which the husband and wife were not captured on any surveillance cameras or spotted by witnesses, leaving open the possibility that they visited a storage unit, a residence, or a business. Pretty mysterious, isn't it? Holga, race to the bottom. This goes back to China. Let's talk about that because that's really the big news. China lets the yuan fall faster, biggest daily fall since August, sends the market reeling. For the second time in a week, China's stock markets were shut for the day. I said severally that the financial markets, in my opinion, are Xi Jinping's Achilles heel. Shares fell more than 7% today, halted by automatic circuit breakers from about 9:59 a.m. local time. Yuan's depreciation has exceeded investors' expectations. Investors are getting spooked by the declines, which will spur capital outflows. Now, early in the morning, my friend Moses from New York tweeted me, ludicrous, fighting the natural laws of economics. He was referencing China. I said it's their Achilles heel, and the markets can smell it in the air. Moses, the market is revealing the truth a day at a time. I think 5-year mean reversion inevitable, and he's not wrong. As I said, the stock market crash represents probably the biggest political risk in the neo-totalitarian, which was a description given to Xi Jinping by courts, and I think they were spot on. In September last year, I said China must fix its economy despite military show. In August, I said China was roiling the markets, and it's roiling them some more. In my article in August, I quoted a senior IMF official who told a press conference it's totally premature to speak of a crisis in China. The CEO of Glencore, at the moment, none of us can read China. I said, I can, and it's going to get a lot worse, I am afraid. And I said the further problem is that no one believes the data either. This moment when the market stops suspending its disbelief, seriously a dangerous one for policymakers the world over. Let's move on to the currency markets. The euro back below 108 at 107.73. Dollar index above 99. Japanese yen 118.08. The Swissy, when I looked last, 10037. The pound 145.91. Aussie. And this is a proxy for China, not down so badly, 0.7044, Indian rupee 66.825, the Rial 402.95, Egyptian pound, they're holding it in line, 7.8299, and the rand is around the 16 level, which is not far off a record low that was reached at the time of the Nene, Gordon, Pradhan three-step. Dollar index, let me put up a 3-month chart. My target is 110, and I don't think we're going to be that far off. Euro dollar softening up again, but I think the key thing is to see how it behaves at the levels of 104.84 to about 105.50. That would be really key. We've seen a bottoming there a few times. We see it again, then I think that's a buy signal, but it's trading very poorly. Spot prices for the Western Canadian Select Grade fell to $19.81 a barrel on Wednesday, the lowest since tracking began in 2008. This speaks to why I've been so bearish about the Canadian dollar. Last trading at 141.33. I think we're headed to 155. You remember when I said 140? A lot of people were poo-pooing me, particularly my Canadian clients. But that's where it's going. Crude oil, let me put up a 1-year chart. It's just melting down. Drops are just enormous every day. On the 10th of August, I said the meltdown is coming. It is upon us now. Again, 10th of August, the end is nigh for crude oil. And oil producers from Caracas to Luanda, from Riyadh to Abuja. I said oil is now in free fall. The end is nigh. President Obama, I've called him an oil warfare specialist, has scored the equivalent of a hat-trick at the World Cup in how he has advanced the US national interest by using the price of oil as a geopolitical spear. Oil-based economies are going to contract, currencies which have already collapsed are going to be routed, and Greek-style austerity will be the order of the day. The meltdown is coming, and it surely is. Holger again, oil rout deepens, Brent drops more than 5%, that was yesterday, it's dropped another 5% today. Gold caught a bid, got as high as 1100 before retreating now to 1093.25. Bloomberg, why 2015's best commodity could turn into this year's nightmare. That was all about cocoa, chocolate. And cocoa was the best performing commodity after the longest rally in London cocoa futures since at least 1989. Farmers from Ivory Coast to Peru are preparing to revive supplies. This is Rabobank's theory. There's going to be a lot more supply, and they're calling the end of the cocoa bull market. I'm not so sure, because I think demand for cocoa is notoriously inelastic, and I'm not certain, given the sort of weather patterns we're seeing, that we're going to get a sudden deluge of cocoa beans. Let's move on to sub-Saharan Africa. Djibouti Coalition Party backs Guelleh as president. Djibouti's Social Democratic People's Party backed President Ismail Omar Guelleh to extend his 17-year rule of the country. Members of the Union for a Presidential Majority coalition will meet in the coming days to select the candidate for the elections. Guelleh has led Djibouti since 1999. He succeeded his uncle Hassan Gouled Abtidon, who was the country's first president after it gained independence from France in 1977. In March 2010, Guelleh amended the constitution to allow him to extend his rule by 2 more 6-year terms. At his swearing in, after elections in 2011, Guelleh said he was taking his oath of office for the 3rd and final time. Obviously not. The point is, because of Djibouti's geopolitical position, he gets a free pass, let's be frank. South African all shares closed 1.04% lower yesterday. It's down 3.18% year to date. Most of Africa, ex-Nairobi, has had a very poor start, down 3.18% in South Africa. Dollar rand 16, my target is 20. It's not such an outlier target, let me tell you. Egyptian pound, that's at 7.83, but reducing fuel price is going to help them a little bit. Egyptian EGX 30 down 1.19% this year. Lagarde tells Nigerian lawmakers at the IMF that she does not back FX curbs. Additional exchange rate flexibility, either up or down, can help soften the impact of external shocks, make output and employment less volatile, and help build external reserves, she said. It can also help avoid the need for costly foreign exchange restrictions, which we don't really support, and if they exist, they should remain temporary by nature. I said she's a marvellous lady, and she is. Look at how she's finessing the devaluation for the Nigerian president, who seems to have a mental blockage about doing this. Pressure mounts for this Nigerian Naira devaluation. The central bank may revise its target for the Naira by about 20% to 240 to 250. As oil continues its decline. This was exotics. It's currently at 199.29, but it's a false market, as we've already established. I'll put up a photograph of Christine Lagarde, myself, and Hannah on January 2014. Really tremendous lady. Ghana Stock Exchange is up 0.5%. Sorry, Nigerian oil share got spanked 3.28% lower, and that's all the uncertainty around the devaluation. Let's move on to Kenya. Rising demand spurs Kenyan firms' growth to 7-month high, survey shows. Private sector closed the year on a strong note as the PMI rose to an 8-month high of 55.5 from 53.7 in the previous month, and a survey record low of 51.7 in October, which coincided with that surge in interest rates. Despite the ongoing challenges in the tourism sector for the most part of 2015 and erratic weather patterns, that suppressed agricultural production in the first half of the year, the Kenyan private sector has weathered the storm in what we think was an incredibly challenging global environment in 2015. Could say that again. I was with Henry yesterday and asking about this very strong GDP number we saw in Q3, and he pointed out that construction is all about the cement demand coming from the railway, and he's looking for 6.1% this year. If he gets that, he's going to be way over the top compared to the rest of Africa, and therefore I think the economy is going to surprise to the upside in 2016. We've had a lot of propaganda which has sort of diminished our bona fides. We've got challenges, I admit, but I think Kenya is going to be a bright spot in the African region. Uchumi grapples with Uganda bankruptcy suit. They filed for bankruptcy in Uganda. This is probably the best option if you want to ring-fence the Uganda situation. There's a link for Uchumi's share price data. We crossed 10, we were at a 5-month high, we came back off it, we should go up again. Kenya shilling seriously Teflon 102.15 last. Have a look at that article I wrote about the Teflon shilling. Nairobi all share up 0.76% year to date. And in a world of carnage where everyone's getting spanked, the Nairobi all share hasn't done that badly, has it? The NSE 20 crossed 4,000, jumped 0.85% yesterday. So let's see how we behave today. I think it might be a little bit more circumspect, but very interesting. I was telling all my people around me that I hadn't seen a start to the market like this for years, if at all. Once again, thank you.